Welcome to ZKast, everyone. I'm Z.S. Caravallo from ZK Research, and I'm here on site at Enterprise Connect 2024. We're in the Biodome, also known as the Gaylord Palms here down in Orlando. This is day 3 of the show. We're kind of wrapping up the event, and I'm here with two people from C1. Bret Lathrop, it says VP of Product Solutions, C1. Little bio in yourself, what you do.
Yeah, thank you. With C1, I lead our product and solutions team. So we're bringing our solutions, both our powered with partners and our own intellectual property to life.
And tell people who C1 is, too.
Yes, C1 is a national and both international support system integrator and service provider across both infrastructure, security, and connected experiences.
Yeah, and I see more and more of that. You're trying to bring all of those things together, right?
Yeah, you can't help not have a secure, connected experience that rides over an infrastructure. So it's pretty straightforward.
And David Lover, little bio on yourself as well.
Yeah, so Dave Lover, Vice President of Strategy and Technology. My job is I work in our national practices focused on innovation and modernization. So I'm really here to help customers understand the trends that are happening, so things like Enterprise Connect are great for me to kind of see what the vendor version of that story is, maybe compare that with a little bit of reality. So I do that a lot with customers and communicate that strategy internally and work with guys like Bret Lathrop to turn that dream into a reality.
All right, since you're the vision person, right, and we are at Enterprise Connect and you wanted to see what they're doing, what were your thoughts on the show? What caught your eye here?
Well, I think it goes without saying, everybody's talking AI, right?
I hadn't noticed.
I like it. And now the common thing is for everybody to joke about how everybody's talking about AI, so that's me again.
Right.
But yeah, it's something that everybody's trying to figure out and find their use cases. I think a lot of people are, they know it's important, they know it's real. I think now they have to find actual use cases, though.
And do they know what to do with it right now?
They have examples that have been defined by manufacturers.
Yes. Okay.
And so sometimes that's good because I find a lot of people lack creativity and sometimes need a jump start. And so you can recognize some pretty cool things and improve upon it in a very iterative process.
Yeah, I look at that as maybe priming the pump, I suppose, is a good way to think about it.
Yeah, exactly right.
And Bret, where are our customers with, since you're actually building the products and working, where are they with AI today?
So they're super excited about it. So, the stats say 100% of them are all figuring out a way to use it in some way.
Yeah.
But
is that because their bosses are telling them?
A little bit of that, yes. And then, but then the same stat says they're concerned about how much it's going to cost and where the return on investment is and where that use case and business outcome comes from that involvement. So what we're finding is what clients are really open to is finding out what the potential automation should be. And there's some techniques to get into that. And we're starting to see customers take up things like intent studies where you analyze using AI a bunch of the communication that's happening in the environment. And then from that, it bubbles up. Here's what people are saying. And you may not have known there was a gap there. Is there automation opportunity in there? And in that automation, maybe your first automation comes out.
Is there some kind of low-hanging fruit where you do see the automation having the biggest bang for its buck?
Yeah, I mean there are some, I think, early use cases that definitely are bearing out based on the use cases. So for example, we're seeing interestingly a lot of internal to the businesses, not necessarily CX related. Yeah. So I'm an HR department.
Well, that's safe, right?
Yeah, it's a safe way to start your journey into this. So I'm an HR group. And every year I have a massive amount of calls because I've got my onboarding of the new policy for the year and for my medical and stuff. And if you can put a automation or an IVA in front of that, answer a bunch of the questions so that it's not just hammering the HR department. They're seeing that as a benefit. Seeing sales and pre-sales teams using the IVA to be a knowledge of all the things that are going on in their business so that they can get right at the heart of the data instead of searching through a lot of different documents. So there's a variety of both internal and external. Around the external, I mean, it is primarily how do I do some self-service that helps me with the load that the human agents are handling. And then, of course, make sure that those human agents have some kind of contextual information about what's going on.
And I'm not sure who would know the answer to this better, but what kind of ROI are they looking for? Do they even know what kind of return they should get?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, David, I think a lot of them think in the old school terms where they're saying, am I saving so many seconds of wrap time for agents or various other things, or handle times on calls are this long, and can the
And actually,
AI
I think
do
handle
that?
time's a totally false metric too.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right. What's more important is some of the new, KPIs around interesting containment is both the good and bad thing, right? So containment isn't a bad scenario if you have a good IVA and it is delivering a service that people like to interact with. Then yes, the containments with the new AI absolutely can be 70, 80%.
And what's interesting about the containment discussion is, and ROI, the realization of the ROI comes in play of if I do have to escalate to a human being from an IVA, a chatbot, or something. I have to make sure that I don't waste the effort that I applied to that. If I shaved off 20 seconds, the last thing you want to do when I do get escalated to a human is to start have the agent say, "How may I help you?"
Yes,
like, how do you? What do you mean? How may I help you? So we
that unfortunately that's still the norm. Not the
it is
exception.
very much the norm.
Right.
It's the same thing as asking for the account number again, right? Which we all know is bad. But if I lose all of the work that I did in the IVA and have to start all over, then I've blown any chance of a realization of an ROI.
Now I know C1 recently announced a product called Elly, right before Enterprise Connect. In fact, tell me first what it is, and then what was the ideation behind it?
So
it's the first I've seen of its kind.
I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah.
Elly is an IVA. It's a personification of the IVA experience that we want to have for our clients. Elly does stand for the elevated experience.
Oh, that's what that stands for.
Yeah. And the reason why that's important to us is we've been really, and David was just hitting on this. For us, there's a new term that we started to use, and I know others are using as well, that human experience element, right? Because putting the authentic into the artificial intelligence is where everybody's at. Because as you were saying, people are already experiencing bad AI, just like they experience bad IVR.
Yeah.
And so if you do not bring the human aspect to it, the experience that they should be having, you're really not going to get out of the AI experience what you want. And so
but what does Elly run on? Because you don't have your own contact center platform, or you're not a UC vendor, so.
Elly is built in combination with our tooling and can run, and runs in public cloud environments, and uses the framework allows us to use a variety of different AIs. So I can go between the different major ones, including open source. And more importantly, Elly comes standard with an iPaaS framework, which allows us to make sure that our interconnection and contextual data flows to these other environments. Because the key for us...
Such as what other environments?
So the key for great IVA experience, for Elly to do the greatest job possible, is to be able to transfer that contextual experience information when it does need to get escalated to a human colleague.
Okay.
And where most people are missing the IVA world is they're building maybe great IVA, but it stands alone, and all it does is aggravate people when it transfers to an agent and they don't have any context about what was going on in Elly, why were they doing that. And so we've created a fabric such that you can get that data too. So Elly can stand alone and integrate to a Genesys environment, or integrate to a Cisco environment, integrate to a variety of ZKast environments.
Multi-vendor IVA.
Yes, yes, exactly. And that's everything, because if you don't do that end-to-end process, the full connected, elevated experience end-to-end, you're just missing out.
So the alternative to that then is I have my IVA for Genesys, my IVA for Cisco, or whatever, and then my agent's actually got to be the one to sit there and be the human integration point for all of it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, and we also, again, we partner with those companies, and to date, they have had a lot of success in building widgets that connect you to the AI world and to allow you to use those tools. Most of it's been conversational IVR, for lack of a better term. But Elly can sit right out there on the front of that with the most advanced generative AI interactions possible, and still then complement the ZKast environment that you're using to make sure that those agents have the complementary information. And more importantly, the analytics, right? Bringing the data of both what's going on in ZKast and what's going on in Elly into a single framework.
And what's been the customer feedback on it?
It's been super exciting. Honestly, they've been Go ahead, David.
No, I think we're seeing that excitement again for the modularity that you kind of referred to, right? You know, especially as customers are thinking, hey, we know in this space and in the AI space, there's a lot of new players every single year, right? We just walk the booth of Enterprise Connect, and you see a lot of new players. You see some that have disappeared. And that modularity and rebranded. So there's a lot of the flexibility, the Swiss Army knife of the integration becomes a very critical piece to it all. And customers find that the investment protection that they have in whatever they've already invested in, and then letting them be flexible in how they choose to move forward is safe, and it gives them the comfort zone to innovate. Without freaking out all of the business side of the transformation.
Turn AI into authentic intelligence with the only intelligent virtual assistant that unlocks the value of all your enterprise data. Spark AI-driven conversations that blend empathy with technology and deliver more than answers. With context-aware interactions that infuse your brand's essence into every connection. So, how do you get started? With me, C1 Elly.
And so what's next for the product? Can you talk about roadmap at all?
Yeah, we're excited to continue to bring versions of that sentiment analysis and contextual information into more and more widgets so that you can embed them in different ZKast products. We're expecting to have a full complement of both additional voices that can be taken care of, right? The amount of replication of the type of voice, the type of language, even what language and what region of the country you want that bot to sound like. All those kinds of things are coming through in the products, which are fantastic.
All right. Well, I appreciate the conversation. There's one last question for both of you.
Yeah.
For those watching, you talked about there's a lot of companies thinking about AI today, not really sure how to execute on it. What's one or two pieces of advice that you'd give them to help them get started in a way that they can actually move forward with it and not just be paralyzed?
Oh, excellent. So first of all,
and we didn't rehearse this.
I know. And David will have some good ones here too. I'd say the first couple that are really important is one, you're just starting simple. Some basic use cases that give value is where you start.
Your Occam's razor, right?
Your Elly doesn't have to be the all-end Elly that will save all things. The first Elly you put in place is hired to do one particular thing, and maybe that's only needed for a certain period of time because the next Elly becomes a new type of function. So don't be freaked out by starting simple. Don't forget that one of the biggest challenges to leveraging AI is data.
Yeah.
And everybody's data is not quite ready for AI consumption.
No, that comes up over and over. People do not know what to do with their data.
Yeah. And so don't be surprised that you'll have a great use case. Elly's ready to go to work, and what Elly needs to do the best job is some data modeling that you got to tweak a little bit. Now, luckily, we do include part of that as what we do in the service, but you are going to be discovering interesting things about your data that you didn't realize were there that you need to work on. Yeah.
All right. And David?
Yeah,
last word, I guess.
Completely agree with the data side of it, because that is the number one thing we run into the most. But I would advise people to remember that in any type of digital transformation, there's actually two underlying transformations. The first one is a technology transformation, which is kind of what we're talking about here. Yep. The second one is the business transformation. And a lot of IT people are notorious for thinking they're going to change the technology and that's all they have to think about, forgetting that it changes everything on the business side. Yeah. And so we work a lot with our customers to understand that entire flow. Again, the elevating the entire connected human experience. And a lot of that comes from the technology, which I think everybody here is really good at. It's the business side of that we have to keep in mind and keep it part of the discussion.
All right, so to sum up, get your data house in order, start simple, don't forget the business transformation.
Yeah, nice, good summary. That's it.
This is why he's the man. This is why he knows what he's doing.
All right, David, Brett, thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
So on behalf of the very tall C1 team, I'm ZKast from ZK Research, and thanks for watching. Please hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you next time on my next episode of ZKast.